Danny Zelisko. Danny, it's always great talking with you. I don't think it's a stretch to say that you've known every major rock group that's come through the Valley in the last probably 35, 40 years. Hey, you look good, man. Good to see you. This had to be tough. You had to have known Eddie, right?
Well, I didn't know him really well. We put on a lot of shows with him, of course, over the years. But every encounter I had with him was lovely. Great guy, very friendly, so into his music. And really not, I didn't find him as into the whole rock star scene off stage as, say, maybe his lead singer was.
Right. David Lee Roth, which I think
You
a lot of people
Diamond
thought.
Dave?
Yeah, Diamond Dave. I mean, everybody thought that he was kind of like the ego of the group. And I heard Valerie saying in some interview somewhere that Eddie was really kind of intimidated by David and always wanted to stay back and was so worried about, offending him by being so good on the guitar and taking the stage.
Well, I don't know if it was so much about offending him, but it was more making him look good so that he could do all those acrobatic moves that he did.
Right.
They were fantastic. They were fantastic live. It was kind of like the 4th of July and New Year's Eve clashing together to see which one could be more explosive every show they did.
And the bond that he had with his brother Alex on the drums, too, is one of those things that was a lifelong bond, and I think that went through the group, didn't it?
Well, that was the nucleus of the band, and oddly enough, it had a lot to do with Dave. How about that? I mean, at the time that they broke, they were getting nowhere fast on Sunset Boulevard. Gene Simmons was one of their first benefactors.
From Kiss.
Because they couldn't get arrested. He paid for their first demos.
Where would you put Eddie Van Halen in, say, top 10 all-time when you have your Hendrix and your Jimmy Pages and your Keith Richards? And where do you put him?
He's got to be up there, too. Tony Iommi was another guy that he idolized from Black Sabbath. Tony often mused to me, where would Eddie Van Halen be without me? And I would conversely ask Tony, where would you be without Hendrix? I mean, it all goes backwards to Chuck Berry and Elvis and all that. But the whole scene of being on stage, look at me, look how great I am. And with Eddie, I don't think it was so much about that. Yeah, he was flashy for sure. But, tasty as can be. The compositions were really what it was all about. His ability to affect those was incredible.
And it's funny, we were talking about that in the newsroom, and I'm a total hack guitarist, but just enough that I can really appreciate really good guitarists and what they do. His rhythm, I mean, everybody thinks about Eruption and all of his solos and things, but if you go back and listen to those riffs and the rhythm that he puts behind those songs, I mean, they were different than a lot of other things that were going on back then.
And that's what made them stand out so well. He wasn't just a flash. He could play as fast as anybody, but those licks were tasty. And like I said, without the song, those would have just been a lot of guitar riffs, which would be great, but the audience for that is so much less than when somebody's able to put together 4 distinct personalities, really only 3 musicians on stage, and make that kind of sound. Where, that to me would be inspired by Cream.
Right.
Except they had a lead singer that could dance and jump like crazy. They were the entire package. And I don't want to leave out the Sammy version either, because he brought another thing to the party as well.
Yeah, that was also a great band and a totally different vocal range. Sammy had that vocal range that David maybe did, and then you added a second guitar. Danny, I love talking to you, and you actually have written a book, right? I can't believe I haven't gotten this yet. I've got to get this book. Tell me about the book that's out, because I'd love to read this.
Well, it's at the printers right now. There was a little snafu with the cover, but it's going to be done in the next couple of days.
Oh, okay.
It'll be out next week. We're selling it on Amazon. It's called All Excess rather than All Access. It's 350 pages. It's a heavy book, about 3 pounds. There's over 700 pictures and 60 chapters of fun stories. I mean, there's another 60 chapters behind that, but one thing at a time. The book will be available next week. And I'm very happy that, during this time where we're not able to do shows, if we can't put on concerts, I'm going to talk about them until we can bring them back again on stage.
And I can listen to it all day long. So you said Amazon.com is where we can get that book, and how do we find it? Just
Absolutely, yeah. Use my name as the key on it, because All Excess seems to be a popular title.
I bet, huh? Danny Zelisko, always great talking with you, always great stories, and yeah, if you're into rock and roll, go ahead and check out that book, available next week. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks again, Danny.
All right, thanks, Troy.
You got it. See you, bud. Renee. Isn't he interesting? Danny's he's got so many great stories. Really quickly, so we went out and saw Jane's Addiction one time at a great venue at Mesa Amphitheater. Danny was out there, and he walks up to us and he says, hey, about 3 songs in, make your way out to the soundboard in the middle of the stage. And I was like, what? He's like, trust me, make your way out to the soundboard. So we did. We walked out to the soundboard, and next thing you know, the lights go down, they come up, and the band was right there.
Oh, that's cool.
So I'm like touching I wasn't literally touching their feet, but I could have. Anyway.